may be seated. Thank you very much. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as a university that is very intentional about building a nation that everybody can be proud of, and as a university that strives towards excellence in all it does every day, in all its activities, and as a university that couples knowledge to development in all its activities, we have decided for this 10th anniversary that our anniversary lecture will be addressing a big challenge in our nation. And what is the challenge that this anniversary lecture will be addressing? The theme for this anniversary lecture is the Leviathan debacle, reimagining university education in Nigeria in an age of governmental backsliding. And that is very crucial at this particular point. We cannot afford to sit on the fence because there is even no fence to sit on. It's either we are on the side of rebuilding or we are on the side of lukewarmness. But that is not what we stand for. Exactly what we'll be addressing here today. On that note, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I welcome everyone to the 10th anniversary lecture of the University of Medical Sciences, the first specialized university in medical and health sciences in Nigeria. We call ourselves the pride of Ondo State, and the envy of other universities in Nigeria. And that is how much we believe in what we do in this environment. Without any further ado, I will be recognizing the important dignitaries that we have in our midst this morning. And I want to, with the kind permission of the Pro-Chancellor, to start by recognizing our visitor, who is unavoidably absent here, but has considered it expedient to send an able representative to us in this environment. We have representing the governor of Ondo State, Honorable Lucky Orimison Ayedatiwa, here in this place today, the special advisor to the governor of Ondo State on education, Dr. Olawumi Ilawole. Please a round of applause for her. You are welcome, ma'am. I also want to quickly recognize the Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of Council of this great university, who has also decided that he must be part of this 10th anniversary because this is the school he sits atop of, directing the affairs of the university. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please let's put our hands together for Professor Ayodele Arowojolu. Thank you very much. Also this morning, the man at the saddle, the man who works tirelessly day and night, the man who every day churns out ideas, initiatives that have moved the university to where it is at the moment, the man that some of us regard as an innovative leader who keeps profiling solutions you will consider to be simple, but will turn out to be the game changer, the man with the Midas touch. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I recognize in our midst this morning the Vice Chancellor of this university, Professor Adeshegun Olayiwola Fatusi. No matter how innovative a leader may be, he needs a very good team around him. And I believe strongly that the Vice Chancellor is blessed with a very good team, people who help him every day in running the affairs of this university. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I recognize this morning the Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, Professor Rose Angela Nwuba. Please a round of applause for her. We also have in our midst this morning the Deputy Registrar, representing the Registrar, who at the moment is unavoidably absent, and the Deputy Registrar Council, also the Registrar Designate of the university, is in our midst. Please let's put our hands together for Mr. Ezekiel Adeniro. We also have here this morning the bursar of the university. He has also been running helter-skelter in the last few days to ensure that this program is a success. Even till yesterday night, he's all over. He was all over doing this. I recognize this morning Mr. MSO Shitu, the bursar of the university. The university librarian is on another important assignment. At the moment, we have some accreditation teams in the school, and he has to attend to that. While we are doing an anniversary, other activities also must go on. I recognize the university librarian in absentia, Dr. Adebambo Oduwole. Please let's give him a round of applause. When they wrote this name down, the person I want to introduce, I asked myself a simple question, whether I will be able to do that introduction properly. If this man had not thought of it at a point that this university should come into existence, perhaps it will still be a mirage, and it will only exist in the level of imagination. But he thought of it at a point, believing that ideas rule the world. And that idea today is growing. And the idea is what so many people are copying in the university, in Nigeria, because it's a very valid idea that has been working for us. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor to introduce to this gathering this morning the Executive Governor of Ondo State between 2009 and 2017. The visionary, the one who bear this idea of the University of Medical Sciences. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please let's put our hands together for Dr. Olusegun Rahman Mimiko, CON. The Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of Council is here with us. And when you see a leader that is doing well, you always find members of his team always with him, because they are not operating in silos. They work together. And we have another member of the Governing Council here today, former Commissioner of Women Affairs in Ondo State, and a member of this distinguished Governing Council of the university. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I recognize Dr. Yemi Mahmood. Please a round of applause for her. When I mention the topic of today's anniversary lecture, I know a lot of people will be wondering, which one is the Leviathan? Interestingly, the anniversary lecturer of today happened to be a former vice chancellor of the university we are all proud of. The university that produced us, the university that molded some of us to become who we are today. Without the likes of this anniversary lecturer, perhaps we may not be who we are today, whether directly or indirectly. He has impacted on all of us. He has made us who we are through his exceptional administration when some of us were in that school. Perhaps by the time he was the head of the school, maybe we were doing postgraduate programs then, but we felt him. We felt his intellectual sagacity within the university. And I have no doubt in my mind that this roof, I hope the roof will not be removed when he begins to talk. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want to specially recognize our anniversary lecturer, the former vice chancellor of the only university in Africa here, Obafemi Awolowo University, former pro-chancellor and chairman of council, Ekiti State University, Ado Ekiti. With resounding applause, please let's welcome Professor Bamitele Omole. Incidentally, Professor Bamitele Omole, perhaps maybe my parents addressed something about him. I said something yesterday that if I introduce myself as Bamitele, people will think I'm just making it up. But I'm not making it up. But because they don't call me that name, people may not know that is my name. For us, when we share things with great men. And that's the way it is. That's why my name is also that. You are welcome, sir. I'm aware also we have some vice chancellors in our midst. Particularly, we have a friend of our university. There is nothing we are doing that you won't find him. I went to go and dig why should that be. And then I realized there is an affiliation between him and our vice chancellor. And usually you don't find people that are not great coming together, great men. They actually relate together. You find out that where you see one great man, just look around, you will find minimum of 5 around them. That's the way it operates. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want to recognize in our midst this morning the Vice Chancellor, Elizade University, Ilara Mokin, Professor Kayode Ijaduola. Please a round of applause for him. It is the spiritual that controls the physical. We had planned, we had put in place so many things in the last few months, looking forward to a day like this. We could have planned, and it might not have come to pass. Because we recognize that fact, in our midst today also, we have clergymen. People that if any demon attempts anything in this hall today, I can assure you, the demon will die the kind of death that the demon is not expecting. I want to specially recognize clergymen in our midst. The Right Reverend Dr. Stephen Adeniro. Adeniro Oni is the Bishop Diocese of Ondo. I think we can do better than that. Also, we have Reverend Sunday Akoni, the Bishop's chaplain. I know a lot of people also have come in. Please, with the kind permission of the Pro-Chancellor, I will be recognizing people as we progress. So, with your kind permission, sir, I must not fail to do this. The guest speaker, first and foremost, came with his wife. I said something yesterday at a program that beside every successful man, you must always find a successful woman. And therefore, I recognize this morning the wife of our guest speaker. I know no matter what he tells us today, if mommy is not by his side, I don't know what will come. I recognize the wife of our speaker, Mrs. Omole. You are welcome, ma'am. And for me, I don't want to lose my job. I will also seek the permission of the Pro-Chancellor to do this. Almost 24/7, somebody I work with from time to time. And for him to be doing what he's doing, at times I ask myself, where is this energy coming from? 1 a.m., we are working. 2 a.m., we are working. Okay, can wake you up at any point in time. And for him to be able to do that, the homestead is doing well. The homestead must be an abode of peace. The homestead must be an abode of tranquility where you can think straight. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I have the wife of the Vice Chancellor here. And I'm not introducing him not just as his wife, also as an egghead, a cerebral scholar in our own right. Somebody you cannot but recognize wherever she is. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please let's put our hands together for Professor Olawumi Fatusi, Professor of Dentistry. It is MRTD. I recognize quickly the presence of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, Ondo chapter, also in our midst. And I'm aware also that we have Professor Rufai Yusuf Ahmed, the registrar, the medical Rehabilitation Therapy Board of Nigeria. Please a round of applause for them. And I want to sincerely recognize all the deans of the University of Medical Sciences, directors here present, HODs of department, heads of units, our students who are here, and every other guest. Without you, this program will not be holding. Could you please put your hands together for yourselves? We recognize you. And without any further ado, we go straight into the next item of our agenda here, which is the opening remarks to be given by the Vice Chancellor of our great university. with resounding applause, please, let's welcome Professor Adeshegun Olayiwola Fatusi as he gives his opening remarks.
Thank you very much, PRO. Good morning, everyone. Let me adopt the protocol that has been so well laid for the benefit of making up some of the time that we have lost. But that said, nevertheless, I need to and I must recognize a couple of people. It is my pleasure this morning, ladies and gentlemen, to again recognize the representative of our amiable governor, the special advisor to the governor on education, and the superintending officer for tertiary education in Ondo State, Dr. Laume Lawale. Very much, ma'am. Of course, we cannot but recognize the visionary of the university, a proud product of Great Ife. And I'm sure that's one of the things he will always tell you. He's not just a governor, but somebody who has stood by us in this vision and who has been a great encouragement. Dr. Olusegun Mimiko, His Excellency, former governor of this wonderful state. And the chairman of our council, Professor Ayodele Arojolu, a distinguished scholar and a reputable gynecologist and obstetrician. Of course, the guest lecturer had been introduced. Professor Bamitele Omole is a product of Great Ife, lectured in Great Ife, and became vice chancellor of Great Ife. I had the privilege of serving under him as the provost of the medical school about a decade ago. And I'm glad that he's here this morning along with his adorable, wonderful, and gentle wife, my auntie, Mrs. Bola Omole. I am not going to repeat all the introduction, but I just need to acknowledge a few people as I start my short remark this morning. Let me also recognize in the house a lot of friends of Unimed. I will not be able to name all, but permit me to say, to just mention a few people, particularly those who may not have been recognized. I think we have friends across the various dimensions of life with us this morning. We have Professor Bestman. Professor Bestman is also an Ife person, professor of foreign language in Ife, and I have been warned I must always introduce her properly. The senior sister of Dr. Olusegun Mimiko. We function along with our regulatory bodies, the various professional bodies, and I'm glad this morning we have one of the most powerful friends we have within that sector. A brother, a friend, a colleague in many, many ways. Professor Ahmad Rufai, Registrar of Medical Therapy, thank you very much for being here this morning. We have our friend from PSN here. Thank you very much for your support. And distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me very specially recognize our father and a friend of our university, Bishop Adenironi, the Bishop of the Ondo Diocese of the Anglican Church, and also Pastor Chaplain, also Chapel, OAU Ilefe. We are Ife people. We are always proud to say we are Ife. I want to welcome all my colleagues in the principal officers team, the deputy vice chancellor, a great scholar, wonderful friend, and very supportive sister, Professor Osangela Nwuba. I want to thank you. The registrar is on leave now. He's retiring. I'm glad we have the incoming registrar and currently the deputy registrar in charge of council affairs, Mr. Mole Ayo Adeniran. Our bossa is here, Mr. M.S. Oshitu. The librarian is attending to our accreditation team. Our deans, our directors, our head of departments, our staff union president, the ASU president is here, the student union president is around, all colleagues, all students of our university. It's a great pleasure to welcome you here this morning. And I believe that this is one of the most wonderful weeks in the history of our universities, our 10th anniversary. Just like yesterday, the seed was planted, but it has been nurtured by great men. And by God's grace, today we are celebrating 10th anniversary. I think we deserve to really clap for ourselves. And as part of the tradition within the university system, this morning we are going to have an anniversary lecture. And believe me, it didn't take us too much to decide who we want to speak to us. Because we wanted a man who is vast in the university system, who understands what the system is. We wanted a man who understands a global view around development. We wanted a man who understands the national dynamics around government. We wanted a man who is not just a scholar, but a practitioner of all that you think around development. And easily, we went for Professor Bamitele Omole, erudite scholar, sagacious administrator, a man you can bet on. And so this morning, I believe that we have come together not just to listen to a lecture, because as we close the chapter on our 10th anniversary, we are opening the chapter to our 11th year. And indeed, we have come to the end of the second administration of this university. I will be leaving in about 3 months' time. And so it will be time to pass the baton to somebody else. And I do believe that this lecture will be something that will help us to begin to revisit our vision, that will begin to help us to reset our gaze, and will begin to try enable us to open our mind to how should we go in the way of the future. So it is for me a great pleasure to have him here this morning, and I do believe that we are going to have a very educative lecture that will give us a platform upon which we can stand as this university continues to move forward in its next administration. My colleague, Dr. Jadola, I thought you stood up. I was going to recognize you. And as I sit down, let me thank very specially Dr. Kayode Jadola, the Vice Chancellor of Elizabeth University. Kayode is not a friend. Kayode is a colleague. Kayode is a brother. He is, of course, you can guess, a product of Great Ife. He is a lecturer in Ife, a professor of community health in Ife, and on loan to Elizabeth University. We are in the same faculty. It actually took over from me as the provost of the medical school in Ife. And so he's someone we have association for many, many, many years. Professor Jadola, thank you very much for doing us the honor of being here this morning. For every other friend that I may not have recognized, the light is shining in my eyes, so I couldn't see that direction well. Let me welcome you very, very warmly. Dr. Stanley Hodge is here, a great friend and one of our clergymen, even though he refused to be recognized. And a number of friends and family members are here. My junior brother is here, Mr. Enes Kadiri, and a lot of other people. Ladies and gentlemen, don't let me waste your time because you are not here for my talk. You are here to listen to Professor Bamitele Omole. And so let me wish you a very wonderful time this morning. Thank you very much for being here. God bless you and welcome.
Thank you very much, sir. Please a round of applause for the Vice Chancellor one more time. I'm aware we have some union leaders here, students, Sanu, and the rest. We recognize you. Please a round of applause for them. Right now, we move on. A lot of recognitions also will be done as people come in. May I respectfully invite our anniversary lecturer to please come to the podium. This is the only opportunity I have to bring him here. I dare not, after this exercise, ask him to stand up and come here. I dare not doing that. And why our anniversary lecturer remains standing is citation will be played electronically for us to have a full grasp of who he is.
Professor Bamitele Omole is a distinguished professor of international relations, diplomacy, and development studies. A versatile university administrator and management consultant, Professor Omole was a former vice-chancellor of the Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, Osun State, Nigeria, from 2011 to 2016, and a former pro-chancellor and chairman of council, Ekiti State University, Ado-Ekiti, from 2019 to 2022. Before serving as the vice-chancellor of Obafemi Awolowo University, Professor Omole was the dean of the Faculty of Administration and a two-term member of the governing council of Obafemi Awolowo University. He has, over the years, served on the boards of some federal institutions and parastatals. At a point in his career, he was a visiting scholar at the Korean Foundation, Seoul, South Korea. He was also twice a visiting research fellow at the Centre de Afrique Noire Institute de Politique, University of Bordeaux, France. He is a laureate of the United States of America International Visitors Leadership Program, Washington, D.C., USA. A bold and thoroughbred university administrator and reformer, Professor Omole spearheaded various innovative and landmark initiatives during his tenure as Vice-Chancellor at the Obafemi Awolowo University. His tenure focused on promoting excellence in teaching and research across academic fields and the rapid infrastructural development of the university. This led to the university being ranked the best university in Nigeria for 3 consecutive years of 2013, 2014, and 2015. As a development and management expert with specialization in university management and strategic repositioning, Professor Omole has consulted for private and public universities in Nigeria, working with them to optimize their potentials. He has also consulted for the United Nations Development Program, African Development Bank, World Bank, and UNESCO. Professor Omole received the BA History and MSc International Relations degrees from the University of Ife, now Obafemi Awolowo University. He earned his MPhil and PhD in Political Science and International Relations from the University of Bordeaux, France. He also holds a postgraduate diploma in International Law and Organization for Development from the Institute of Social Studies, The Hague. He has a certificate on higher education in the digital age for African colleges and universities from the University of Wolverhampton, United Kingdom. Certificate in fundraising fundamentals, certificate in university research management, and a certificate in executive leadership for university management. A recipient of many national and international awards, Professor Omole is a much sought-after speaker on university leadership, governance, and administration. He is widely traveled and speaks and writes fluently in French. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the University 10th Anniversary Lecturer, Professor Bamitele Omole.
Your Excellency, the Executive Governor of Ondo State, Mr. Loki Orimiso Ayedatiwa, ably represented this morning by the Special Advisor to the Governor in the person of Dr. Olawumi Ilawole. Your Excellency, the former Governor of Ondo State, Dr. Olusegun Mimiko, whose visionary leadership during his remarkable and impactful 8-year tenure as the Governor of Ondo State birthed and so to the establishment of this unique and trailblazing University of Medical Sciences. The Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of Council, Professor Ayo Arojolu, my brother and friend, who were classmates at Government College for so many years. We didn't meet until this morning. So it's so my great pleasure. The Vice Chancellor of the university, Professor Olusegun Fatusi, and his amiable consort, Professor Mrs. Laomi Fatusi. My sister is here this morning in the person of Professor Mrs. Joke Bestman. She's here seated. She's the senior sister to the governor. I want people to underline that. Please, can you put your hands together for her? So when the Vice Chancellor came forward and introduced her as the governor's sister, I said, which governor's sister? This woman, she's the senior sister of the governor. Put your hands together for her. My wife is here. As the compere said, if she did not allow me to come, or if she did not feed me well, probably I would not be here this morning. It's my pleasure to recognize my wife officially, Mrs. Bamitele Omole. Please, let's put our hands together for her. My Lord, spiritual and temporal, distinguished personages, ladies and gentlemen, it would be remiss on my part this morning if I do not singularly recognize the Right Reverend Dr. Stephen Oni, the Bishop of Ondo Diocese. He was with us in Ife for so many years, and he did excellently well as the chaplain of our All Souls Chapel. You are welcome this morning, sir. When I met him this morning, the thing he remembered about me, I'm sure he may not want me to say this, was that, Professor Omole, you're a great man. I know you very well. When you were campaigning to be the Vice Chancellor of Obafemi Awolowo University, when I saw your brochure, I said, this is the man who is going to be the next Vice Chancellor. Thank you for your prayers, sir. Thanks so much, sir. Let's put our hands together for him. This morning, I would like to recognize the Vice Chancellors that are present here today. In particular, my younger brother and the current Vice Chancellor of Elizade University, in the person of Professor Ijadola. Please, let's put our hands together for him. I would like to recognize also all the union leaders that are present here this morning, the student leaders that are present here this morning, the media people that are here this morning, and the great students of this great university. It's my pleasure this morning to welcome each and every one of us. I believe that also it will be remiss on my part if I fail to particularly again recognize His Royal Majesty Oba Dr. Victor Adesimbo Kiladejo, CFR, the Oshemawe of Ondo Kingdom, under whose peaceful reign the city of Ondo has witnessed many developmental strides and has developed today into a mega city of diverse ethnic and mosaic coloration. Kabisi and his representative, you are welcome. I understand that Kabisi, that the university will be honoring you, I think tomorrow on Friday, with the award. So those of you that might something from from Dr. Mimiko, we've been friends since 1973. So you can calculate how many years. So when you need him, you can please come to me. After I retire from the university, what I do now is consultancy and brokerage. So if you want to see him, you will drop. Dr. Mimiko, you're welcome. You've been a great man, and you've been a friend for all seasons. I'm so proud to call you my friend. This is befitting, pleasing, and thoughtful consideration on the part of the Vice Chancellor, the Pro-Chancellor, the university community to honor these great men. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, before I go into the lecture proper, kindly permit me, as it were, to felicitate with the University Vice Chancellor, the Pro-Chancellor of the university, the management and staff and students of this unique and trailblazing institution on the 10th year anniversary of its establishment. 10 years in the life of any organization is worthy of celebration. It is worthy of fanfare. After all, a 10-year-old child is no more a baby who wears diapers around. At 10 years, the baby is no longer a toddler, but gradually becoming an adult. So kindly, Pro-Chancellor, Chairman of Council, the Vice Chancellor, members of the management and students of this university, kindly accept my felicitations on this great occasion. Let me now, with your kind permission, come to the lecture proper. I've titled the lecture, The Leviathan Debacle, Reimagining University Education in Nigeria in an Age of Governmental Backsliding. When the idea of the establishment of a uniquely University of Medical Sciences was first mooted in the corridors of power and in the social and political space during the tenure of Dr. Olusegun Mimiko, it was thought to be audacious and indeed a dream that will soon die a natural death and be forgotten. However, despite skepticism and probably incredulity, the bill for the establishment of the University of Medical Sciences, Unimed, was signed into law in 2014 by the then Executive Governor of Ondo State, Dr. Olusegun Mimiko. Thank you so very much, sir. That if not for your foresight, your visionary leadership, we will not be gathered here to celebrate this 10th year anniversary. Thank you so very much, sir. When this university was established in 2014, it was the third specialized medical university in Africa, and it was the first Nigeria specialized medical university to be accredited by the National Universities Commission. Right from its inception, it was conceived as a non-conventional university that was created not only for learning and training of medical doctors, nurses, laboratory scientists, physiotherapists, etc., but as a citadel and an agglomeration of intellectuals and professionals that will produce total health practitioners in the various fields of medical sciences, and which will profoundly impact its environment and contribute to the healthcare delivery and economic development of the nation. Therefore, 10 years after its inception, it is gratifying to know that it has not only fulfilled its vision, it has not only fulfilled its mandate, it has indeed surpassed the wildest dreams of its founders. I would like to make, with your kind permission, I would like to make 2 quick anecdotal remarks. First is about the outgoing Vice Chancellor, Professor Olusegun Fatosi, whose tenure will end by the first quarter of 2025. And the second anecdotal remark will be on why I think I've been invited here today to give this keynote address. When I was the Vice Chancellor of Obafemi Awolowo University between 2011 to 2016, Professor Segun Fatosi was the Provost of the College of Health Sciences of the university. His tenure as a Provost was very remarkable, very eventful, and very, very outstanding. These accomplishments were brought about by his capacity as a leader, innovative agility, his outstanding knowledge of the healthcare space, his creativity, networking skill, and dedication to duty. He not only turned around the fortunes of the college, indeed brought a new dawn and elan into the college. With him minding the post as provost of the college, I had no single occasion to worry about his ability and sagacious management of the college. Therefore, when in 2020, he was appointed the Vice Chancellor of this university, I had no doubt in my mind that his choice was not only meritorious, I was convinced that by the time he will have been ending his tenure, he will have again performed so wonderfully well. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, from the information and documents at my disposal, the Vice Chancellor has exceeded expectations. I think we could put our hands together outstandingly. For example, when he came on board in 2020, the undergraduate medical courses available are 12. But today in 2024, he has increased it to 40. Again, under his watch, the university has run an uninterrupted academic calendar for 5 years, and a total of 10 years when that of his predecessor, Professor Okonofua, is added together. Let's put our hands together for him. As a former Vice Chancellor, this is no mean achievement in today's unstable, capricious, and choleric university environment in Nigeria. The Vice Chancellor also established the first Faculty of Medical Rehabilitation in Nigeria and in West Africa. So he has brought glory to Ondo State and to Nigeria, and the first full-fledged School of Public Health in Nigeria. Under him, the University of Medical Sciences has become the first Nigerian university to start a program in MSc, Health Law, and Policy. You could see the former governor clapping his hands. He's a student of that program. When the former governor told me and called me, he said, "Do you know I've enrolled for this program?" My first fear was that, will he have the time? I then told him, I said, "You've done exceedingly well." I said that you're enrolling for this program has again, as it were, reinforced the integrity and your support for this university. I told him there's a validation of your belief that this university is on the right path. Let's put our hands together for... Let me make this anecdotal remark again. 2 months ago, the former governor, Dr. Mimiko, was traveling to England. He then called me. I live in Lagos. He said, Tale, where are you? I said, I'm at home. He said, meet me at the airport. Oh. There is something we want to discuss. So we agreed to meet. He was coming from Ondo. We agreed to meet by 6. And by 6:20, 6:10, he was there. I was already there. This is true life story. To tell him how serious he was as a student of MSc Eth Law and Policy. So when we got there, as we were talking, he kept working on the laptop. They were bringing the laptop, working on his phone. And I was seated at the VIP lounge. And I heard him shouting on someone, make sure you submit that assignment tonight. Oh, deadline is midnight. Oh, deadline is midnight. I think the other person, the mail Dr. Mimiko sent has not dropped in that person's inbox. Dr. Mimiko will say, Tale, but around 9 p.m., I think eventually the class monitor, I made the class monitor this. I said, you are the one giving my friend trouble. I think around 9 p.m., the assignments dropped. And he said, I can now travel in peace. Let's put our hands together for... He took the work so seriously. I then told him, I said, you can now see 42 years after, 44 years after. Still, that's the problem. We have been suffering. Now you are suffering it too. Added to these achievements of this Vice Chancellor are the newly constructed buildings and many infrastructural developments to support teaching and research capacity. So, Mr. Vice Chancellor, huge congratulations. The second anecdotal remark is that I want to believe that the Vice Chancellor has invited me, not only because I'm a former Vice Chancellor of Obafemi Awolowo University, or a former Pro-Chancellor or Chairman of Council of Ekiti State University, or even as a development higher education expert. I have a feeling that he has probably invited me because he might have done some diligent search and intelligence gathering about my years at the then University of Ife in the early 70s. And he came to discover that out of 10 or 12 of my friends, 8 of them were medical students in the university. I was an art student, but out of the 10 friends, good friends that I had, out of the 10, 8 were medical students. One of them is Dr. Mimiko, seated there this morning. With due respect, the Kabiyesi Oshimawe of Ondo is another one that in those days we were all in the university together. He probably believes that these medical friends of mine will have rubbed on me enough medical science that I should be able to pontificate on a few ideas of the discipline. Unfortunately, medical science is not something you rub on anyone. It's either you study to become one, a medical doctor, a physiotherapist, a pharmacist, a nurse, or you are nothing, or you are what you are. Therefore, this morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm here today to talk about the subject of, I'm here today not to talk about the subject of medical science that I know nothing about, but to talk about university development in Nigeria, its growth, its administration, challenges, opportunities, and remediation for the 21st century. As I said, interestingly, some of my friends who are medical doctors who are medical students in those days, and who are still my friends today are here. I've mentioned Dr. Mimiko. There is Senator Dr. Nimbe Mamura, who are all together in those days. Dr. Wale Okediran, who is the Secretary General of Pan-African Writers, is based in Ghana. There is Professor Henry Toyin Akimbi, a native of Ondo town. He's a renowned professor of pediatrics and nanotologist in the United States. Kabiyesi, Dr. Adesimbo Kiladejo, now the revered and highly respected Oshemawe of Ondo, was another one. Indeed, your first Vice Chancellor, Professor Friday Okonofua, the exceptionally brilliant and accomplished Vice Chancellor of this university, who are all together in those days. However, for whatever reasons that the Vice Chancellor might have invited me, I'm really, sir, very, very grateful. And I consider it an honor and privilege to be so invited. Some 4 months back, the Committee of Vice Chancellors invited me to address the Vice Chancellors of Nigeria universities in Ilorin. As you are doing there, they've given my biodata, they've done everything. And when I was about finishing my introduction, I said it's a great privilege, it's an honor for me to be invited. Unfortunately, for the MC, he did not know that the mic was on. And the man just said, I was shocked. That you ate, what a joy to have you. Clarification of some concepts, because I'm sure you will all be wondering what is a Levitian. Permit me, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, to start this lecture by offering an explanation for the title of this lecture. The letter that invited me requested that I speak on what to be done to make university education in Nigeria relevant, sustainable, impactful, both nationally and globally. For so many years, I've been following as an eyewitness and participant the conversation and literature on the growth and development of university education in Nigeria. I've been a witness to its incessant crisis and all its unwholesome consequences of closure of universities, lockdowns, strike by students, and the different unions of our universities. And importantly, it is disturbing to see the helplessness of the debacle and indeed the failure of successive governments, both at the national and subnational levels, to rise to its responsibilities in terms of financing and funding of the university sector, especially higher education in Nigeria. The abject and prostrate state of university education in Nigeria has led to the question of whether the government alone at the state and federal levels, with all its competing demands in healthcare, in agriculture, in infrastructure, in provision of security, and in safety of the people, can adequately fund and provide for the university. This is a recurring question, and the debate is still on. That can be addressed at another platform. Because for about 40 years, I've been a participant at finding solution to this crisis. I've come to the conclusion that for our university to become relevant and responsive in the current global knowledge-based, digital, and intellectual market of research, development, and innovation of this century, there is a need for a paradigm shift and reimagining of solutions to these age-long but recurring problems. Therefore, to answer this important question, I will now give a synopsis of the terminology Elevatian. Elevatian in the dictionary is described as a primordial sea monster, a very large aquatic animal of monstrous and frightening proportion that developed from biblical Middle Eastern mythology. Theologically, and that's the second description, it has also been described and identified as a demon and an evil creature whose behavior is beyond human comprehension. However, and this is what is relevant to us this morning, however, in the social sciences, political and development studies, a Levitian is used as a metaphor to describe an octopus-like entity or organization, especially an unwieldy, big, and centralized bureaucratic government that, because of its size and power, embodies and emblematizes confusion, debacle, chaos in the handling of critical matters of states like education of its population, health of its citizens, security and protection of its population, economic and social development, lack of governance, and underdevelopment of its space. The realization of the octopus-like image of the federal government of Nigeria and its inability and failure since independence in 1960 to evolve a stable and acceptable political model, and the lack and failure of social administration to chart an economic and social pathway for economic development, social and ethnic cohesion, and equitable political system of government has led to the unending agitation for restructuring, self-determination, and clamor for separatism by a few self-determination groups, such as the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOP, and the Yoruba National Movement. So, in using Levitian for the context of this lecture, I've looked as the octopus-like image of the federal government and state governments in general, that they are not only excessively bureaucratic, red tapeism, but more importantly is the fact that except for some few states that have taken the education of its citizens as primary, as important, as crucial. Very few states. Every other state, they have behaved like an octopus, too much in their hands, that to the extent they do not know what to do and have receded the importance of education in their budgetary allocation. Backsliding, in the context of this lecture, is not used in terms of a religious or ecumenical apostate. It is used to describe a lofty beginning and commitment by political actors to the growth and development of education sector as a catalyst for general economic, industrial, and social development of a nation, but which unfortunately has gradually been upended and destroyed by the abject neglect, withdrawal, corruption, ineptitude, and indifference of government at all levels to the survival of the sector. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, having settled the operational framework for this paper, I will examine 4 issues in this lecture. First, I will do a general appraisal, or rather a controndo, a synopsis of the education sector, especially university education in Nigeria from 1960 to 2023. That's the first thing I will just say one or two things. Second is to examine the neglect by successive governments in Nigeria of the education sector in comparison with what obtains in other African countries, especially what percentage of this country's yearly budgetary allocation is devoted to education. Thirdly, is to identify the challenges that hinder the effectiveness and global competitiveness of universities in Nigeria. And lastly, I will end the paper by raising some suggestions, conclusions that university could adopt if they must survive and be nationally and globally competitive, relevant, impactful, and sustainable in the face of governmental backsliding, neglect, and virtual abandonment of the sector in Nigeria. Slide, please. Can you bring the slide for the budgetary allocation for Nigeria from 1960 to now? The budgetary allocation. Yes. Education as a catalyst for development. Education and acquisition of knowledge are the bedrock of any civilization. The Middle Ages, and even in today's world. For a nation's development, investing in university education for a substantial proportion of the population is essential, as it serves as both the cornerstone of growth and the engine of progress. Considering the importance of education to the integral development of their nations, many countries such as Malaysia, Singapore, Taiwan, and Indonesia, who were at par in development indices with Nigeria in the 1960s, have consistently channeled huge percentage of their budgetary allocation, as much as 22%, 25% to the education. No wonder these countries are today industrialized and more technologically and economically developed than Nigeria. However, in Nigeria, the education sector has consistently been neglected, receiving between 1%. Distinguished and gentlemen, I want you to note this table. In Asia, in Taiwan, in Malaysia, in Singapore, the budgetary allocation for education is between 22% and 25% from 1960 to 2024. But in Nigeria, from 1960 to 2024, it has always oscillated between 1% and 7%. So the question arises, how will this country, as it were, be competitive in the global intellectual market of the 21st century? When the people, the nations you are competing with, could devote a big chunk of their budgetary allocation of 25%, 23%, 24%, 22% to the funding of education, and here you are in Nigeria, it has always oscillated between 1% and 7%. The highest allocation budgetary ever made by the Nigerian government was in 1979, and it was just 17%. Ever since, it has dipped. The tables will show all of this. Undoubtedly, university education, given its broader scope, is most suited towards ensuring the socio-economic, scientific, and industrial development that Nigeria needs. This is because it has been discovered that it is the development of the human person that in invariably trickles to the development of other sectors of the socio-economic system. An efficient university education system could be considered as one of the best assets a nation can have. It is against this backdrop that it can be asserted that a defective and dysfunctional university system will surely make for an unstable and underdeveloped nation. It's a simple graph. It's linear graph. What you sow, you reap. A nation that neglects the education of its people faces great peril, civic, civil, and public unrest, and indeed, that nation can be likened to laying a foundation for the backwardness of its society. This is why writing on the importance of education as a means of stemming unrest and equality in the society, the late legendary statesman and lawyer, politician, and educationist, Chief Obafemi Awolowo said, slide, he says, at that time, man is not born to grope in the face of adverse environmental circumstances. This was Chief Awolowo speaking. Man is not born to grope in the face of adverse environmental circumstances and conditions. He is ordained and endowed with capacity to comprehend the universe, conquer its immediate surroundings, and rule the world. But first, he must understand the world and all its phenomena. He must do so systematically and scientifically. For the late sage, a major avenue for man to conquer and comprehend his environment is through education. It has been like this from ages. Education brings enlightenment, it brings exposure, and the mind. It was echoing this important fact that Sir Winston Churchill, the former British Prime Minister, at the time said, the privilege of a university education is a great one. The more widely it's extended, the better for any country. Between 1960 and 1970, there were only 6 universities in Nigeria. Slide. There were the University of Ibadan, which was established in 1948. It was first university in Nigeria, and was a college of the University of London until 1962, followed by the University of Nsukka in 1960. The University of Ife was established in 1962, but now known as Obafemi Awolowo University since 1987. Ahmadu Bello University was established in 1962, and University of Lagos also came into existence in 1962. The University of Benin was established in 1970, but started as an institute of technology and became a full-fledged university in 1971. Now, these 6 universities that you have seen on the PowerPoint are known as the first generation universities. Please, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want you to now pay attention to the numbers of the growth in numbers of this university. The number of students enrolled in Nigerian universities grew in 1960 from 1,395 to 15,000 students in 1970. And it exploded to 200,000 students in 1990. And in 2020, it rose to 2.1 million students. Presently, as at February 2024, Nigeria has a total of 274 universities made up of 149 private universities, 63 state universities, 62 federal universities, with a total enrollment of about 2.5 million students. So, see the phenomenon from 1960, from 1,395 students to 2.5 million students today. The conversation on whether the number of universities in Nigeria should be increased or the government should keep and update the existing one is an ongoing debate. What is clear, however, is that despite the importance of university education, the Nigerian look to university education. For many years, the UNESCO benchmark set for the funding of education in nations has always been between 21% and 26% of the national budget. Compare this with the 1% to the 7% that we do in Nigeria. However, in Nigeria, from 1960 to 2023, a period of 63 years, the budgetary allocation has oscillated. In 1960, I want you, sir, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, to note this. It has oscillated from 1960 from 6.02% in 1960, 1965 to 3.57%, 1972. Can you imagine, in 1972, it was 0.62%. Are you there? Are you there? So as far as the government was concerned, education could have been deleted. That was in 19... These are not my words. These are UNESCO statistics. I didn't formulate this. You can check it and Google it after I might have left this podium. In 1972, 0.62%. 1982, 8.09%. In 1991, 1.09%. So, that beggars belief that is hard time is that how do we want to compete scientifically? How do we want to compete educationally? How do we want to compete economically, technologically with nations that devote 25%, 26% of their budgets to education? Let me quickly, don't bore you with this. 2020, it was 6.7%. 2021, it was 5.6%. And 2023, last year, there was a backsliding. It was 5.3%. Specifically for this year, I want you to listen to this. For 2024, a proposed budget of 27.5 trillion expenditure for the 2024 fiscal year was submitted to the National Assembly, and only 1.5 trillion, representing 6.39% of the total budget, is devoted to education. So how do you produce good medical doctors? How do you produce good physiotherapists? How do you produce good nurses? How do you produce good pharmacists? How do you produce good dental surgeons? How do you produce good epidemiologists? How do you produce all these people in the medical field? This funding level falls abysmally short of the benchmark set by UNESCO, which has recommended that between 21% and 26% of national budget be allocated to education. The table being displayed, education funding in Africa, shows it all. What these figures show is that Nigeria has performed poorly and significantly behind in meeting the UNESCO recommendation of 21% to 26% of a country's budgetary allocation for the education sector. It is therefore left to the imagination what will eventually trickle down to the federal government out of the poultry budget allocation. However, in some other African states, the percentage allocated to the education sector is far higher than that of Nigeria in comparative terms. No wonder many of our students are in some of these African countries pursuing their university education at a high cost. For example, in 2022 alone, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want you to note this. In 2022 alone, Nigerian students pursuing university education in Ghana spent over $1 billion on tuition and upkeep. $1 billion. If the Nigerian education system were to be what it should be, I'm sure that half of these students will not have gone there. Now, with your kind permission, let me quickly run through budgetary allocation in percentage by some African countries. For instance, Ghana, you can progressively how Ghana has increased. I will just, in a staccato format, I'll just pick some years. Ghana in 1999, are you there? Ghana allocation was 11.73. Now, in 2003, it has risen to 20.30. I'm just taking these figures. In 2011, it has risen to 30.63. Ghana here, this Ghana that is here. Ghana, this Ghana. We have all been to Ghana. I've traveled virtually all over the world. I've visited all the continents. I've traveled nothing less than 48 countries of this world. So I know what I'm saying. So you ask yourself, why is it really like this in this nation? Now look at the Ghana I'm talking about. By 2019, Ghana has risen to 26.72. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, by 2021, it was 39.0. Can you imagine? Now, let me quickly take another one arbitrarily. Let me take South Africa, our very good friend. Is South Africa not our friend? In 1999, Ghana allocation to education was 15.24%. That's 1999. Now, let me go to, in 2005, it has risen to 19.92. In 2012, it has risen to 20.64. Now, in 2019, it has risen to 20%. Now, in 2021, it's 23.50%. So you ask yourself, why is it then, it's no more surprising that our scientists, when they want to run samples, they will go to South Africa. They will go to South Africa, they will go to Ghana to run samples in the lab. Nothing is assured there. As you are running your samples, NEPA will take off. Is it NEPA now? Or what's their name? It's take off light. EBDEC or IDEC. They are saying NEPA. Don't be deceived by their names. Because you can never guarantee when they will take. So you have your sample that a whole week without any interruption of light. And you see the thing going. So what kind of result do you want to come out with? Now let me quickly take Kenya. Kenya in 1999 devoted 4.55 its budget allocation education. Now it increased in 2006 to 25%, 25.8%. Now in 2020 it is 26.70. In 2021, it is 27.20. Kenya, Nairobi. I've been there on research. I've been there to attend conferences. I've been there to attend seminars. I've been there for so many. What is in Kenya? Senegal. I've lived in Senegal. I did my research on Senegal. So I'm talking not from theoretical point of view. I studied in France. I was there for 5 years. So these things are real. There is a backsliding by the Nigerian government in the pursuance of quality education. Now look at Senegal. Senegal in 1999 devoted 16.82. In 2005, it has risen to 21.77. That's Senegal. Senegal. Yeah. In 2014, it was 24.76. Are you following that table? Are you following the table? I gave this table so that we can compare. We can compare and see that we have a lot of road to cover. In 2020, Senegal has increased to 26.05. In 2021, it was 25.81. What do we do with our allocations, with our budgetary allocations in Nigeria at all levels? Distinguished and gentlemen, the question that arises, therefore, is that in the face of funding neglect by subnational and national governments, and in a climate of backsliding and neglect by government at all levels, what should a serious Nigerian university do to fulfill its mandate, meet its goals, and attract funding for its research, teaching, and infrastructural development? Slide. Challenges to competitiveness in Nigeria. This is the art, part of the art of the issues that we are discussing this morning. Challenges hindering the effectiveness and global competitiveness of universities in Nigeria. Currently, I believe that, and I'm serious about this, I'm not being flippant on, and it's not a joke. The statement I want to make. Currently, I believe that one of the most unenviable executive positions in today's Nigeria is the position of a vice chancellor of a university, be it private, state, and federal universities. This is because all universities at all levels today are grossly underfunded and overwhelmed by their needs. And yet, the government, and the society itself expect optimal performance and delivery. Where is that done? Where is that done? You can liken this to a man that gave his wife 10,000 naira to go to the market for dinner. And when the wife came back, she bought goods worth 10,000. But the husband then said at dinner table, where is the omelette? Where is the macaroni? Where is the spaghetti? We're asking for special exotic dishes. Whereas the money he gave can only buy gari and vegetable. That's exactly the problem in Nigeria today. Every month, President Jadola, am I speaking your mind? Every month, vice chancellors in private, state, and federal universities struggle with what to do with the payment of salaries, overhead, emoluments, allowances. No doubt, there's a limit and the extent to which students can be made to pay tuition fees. There's a limit that you can ask them to pay. If incessantly, you can't continue to increase it. Again, let me say one thing about how important this matter is, how dangerous and how unenviable the position of a vice chancellor. When I was the vice chancellor, many that were in Ife at that time will remember, I think it was 2013. I entered Ife Dr. Mimiko entered, we entered the same year. Accommodation was 90 naira. Are you there? I was a student, did my master's, came back. Accommodation was still 90 naira. Faculty of Arts, at that time, you know, Federal University, we don't charge tuition. But I think Faculty of Arts, if my figures are still right, we are paying 30,000 naira per annum. Health Sciences, where Professor Fashtuti was the provost, where the wife is a professor of dental surgery. I think Health Sciences, they were paying 50,000 to train as a medical doctor, as a dental doctor, as a physiotherapist. Arts were paying 30. Then I called my management team because federal government was no more giving us subvention. Reduced, the subvention drastically reduced. I then said, we us together, and we decided that let's just do some little increase. We said, take our figures, take our table, let's go to Senate. Then 30,000. I think we increased it to 60,000. It was a strategy. We knew there was no way we would get 60,000. But we said by the time we beat left and right, at least they will agree to 40,000. Is that not fair enough? Medicine, 50,000. I think we increased it to 100,000. We knew they will not pay. But we said that management, let's take it to council. Let's take it to and we took it to management. Approved. Committee of deans approved. Then council. Council was livid. Council said, how can people be paying 100,000 to read medicine instead of 100,000? Make it 300,000. I told my DVC, this man wanted to kill me. That if the students should hear this, I then asked the people on the media. I said, I hope you are not recording this conversation. Distinguished and gentlemen, at the end of the day, I was able to persuade council. Council then increased because we were getting fillers. We consulted the student union. Do you know from 30,000, the student union, their leadership, agreed to 40,000. Reluctantly, I knew what happened. Medicine, medical people, from 50,000, reluctantly, I think we were able to get 70,000. Now, for the day of implementation, because you can't do it in the information department will come out at the meeting of council. Council has approved that every student in the Faculty of Arts will now be paying 40,000 naira per session. Please mind it, not per semester. In medicine, they will now be paying 60,000, something like that. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me. Before I left council, they barricaded all the roads. This barricaded that I saw, even as a student, I never saw it. They left the campus, went to barricade the Akure or